and welcome to the Multicultural Football AFL Football Show. I'm Marilyn and I'm originally from Melbourne, and with me to talk about all things AFL footy, I am joined by my two co-panellists who also come from diverse ethnic backgrounds. Habir Singh Kang of Punjabi heritage. Hello, Habir.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
And Gabriel D'Angelo, who is of Uruguayan background. Hello, Gabriel.
Hello, Marilyn. How are you? Hello, Habir.
Hello.
Gabriel, Habir and I will be bringing you the latest AFL news and results of the round. More importantly, we will be highlighting the multicultural aspects of the AFL, interviews, as well as our special Multicultural Player Hall of Fame segment. Last week, the round kicked off with Essendon's surprise win over the West Coast Eagles in Perth, 80-52, and continued on Friday evening with Port Adelaide defeating Melbourne Demons 75-65. On Saturday afternoon, Hawthorn easily beat the Gold Coast Suns in Tasmania 96-43, while the Gabba in Queensland, Brisbane went down to the visiting Giants 109-82. Deep on Sunday evening, the harmony game between Western Bulldogs and North Melbourne was a thriller as the Roos snatched victory by 2 points in the dying seconds of the game, 77-75. The last match of the round was Sunday at the MCG. Collingwood were far too good for traditional rivals Carlton 79-59. Although the Blues stretched the Magpies all the way, were some interesting matches and a close result, guys. What are your picks for the match of the round?
I will pick the thriller you mentioned, North Melbourne versus Bulldogs. Not because they're my team, but Bulldogs did bounce back in this game to me. They've improved their performance a lot, although they've been struck by injuries, but still to come out that strong against North Melbourne, who's on the rise at the moment, and with that kind of great players, they were still able to put up that show. That's pretty good. Although they lost in the end, that was a bit sad for the supporters like me. But still, that was a cracker of a game. Then again, the best part was North was able to hold on to their nerves even in the dying seconds, and Western Bulldogs couldn't, probably because of what's happening in the season, and that sort of a little bit of a mistake from Mitch Wallace. I'm not sure what's going to happen with his career now with that one, how Luke Beveridge takes it, how a few other people take it. But then again, as a player, you do mistakes. It's not something out of the ordinary, but that cost them the game. But otherwise, a fantastic game. Good show by Bulldogs. They've said that they've proved that they've still got in them. They need to bring it together.
Yeah, I totally agree. I thought that North Melbourne versus the Bulldogs was an amazing game, but it was a game of two. It was a game of two halves in the sense that the first half wasn't exactly the best, and they both were extremely flat. Yeah, it has to be said. Even though the Bulldogs were scoring so well and doing so well in that first half of play, but the second half was much better, much more exciting, much more free-flowing. And then the fact that North Melbourne did come back from behind and then win in those last few seconds. But what's worrying for the Bulldogs anyway is that there wasn't a sense of, okay, so the Bulldogs are back into their old form. They're back into that winning fashion again. It was more a case of what's wrong with North Melbourne? Like, why are they asleep? When are they going to come out of halftime, and actually, perform like they should be? And I think that's a little bit worrying when people are starting to think it's not you that's good, it's the opposition that are doing bad. But I want to give an honourable mention for Essendon. Their performance against West Coast in Perth was amazing. To beat West Coast in Perth is not an easy thing to do.
No,
and so, Essendon have had a pretty ordinary year by their standards, by everyone's standards. We expected much better from them. So for them to go over there with their season on the line and to win the game, I thought they were fantastic as well. So I give them an honourable mention.
That's interesting because I think that the Bulldogs and Roos game provided some great footy entertainment, but I'm sure we can debate this for a while longer. However, quickly moving on to the quick rapid fire Q&A segment, the 6-pointer where I ask you some rapid fire AFL hot potato questions. First is yours, Habir. Is Hawthorn on the comeback trail, or is it just the Tassie water that makes them play so well across the straight?
Now, with Hawks, I will never say that it's due to one factor, or maybe the home advantage or any other stadium advantage. Hawks, they're just been amazing. We've seen that in the last few years as well. the main factor is Alistair Clarkson. I mean, that guy is a genius for me, and the way he plays his team, because we've seen, even if they're going through the bad patch as they were last year, still they managed to beat best teams in their home ground. So to me, it's not hazy water. They are a good team.
Yeah. Gabriel, should Melbourne be worried after the couple of consecutive losses, or take it in their stride until they find form again?
At the moment, no. But if they lose to St Kilda, then the alarm bells should ring. Melbourne last year, they should have been in the finals, and I think that will be playing in their minds when they go into this tail end of the season, because they did get a little bit arrogant last year. I thought they probably thought that they were safe. But if they start to lose, especially this week against St Kilda, who have been really bad all year, if they start to lose that game and lose another and then another, then they're in big trouble. But at the moment, I'll just say no.
Okay. Back to you, Habia. Is the big Roo Ben Brown a shoo-in for the Coleman medal now that Tom Lynch and Jeremy Cameron are sidelined for a length of time, or will Buddy Franklin make a late run with a bag of goals?
No, I believe Ben Brown, he's fantastic this year. As we mentioned last game, North Melbourne didn't perform that well. Even he didn't perform that well as per his standards, but still he managed to get like about 5 goals or so. He's just fantastic this year, and we've seen Buddy Franklin. Sometimes defenders are coming on top of him. So, as you mentioned, Jeremy Cameron out and Lynch out, I think it's going to be a easy run for Ben Brown.
Okay, Gabriel, do you think Essendon back in force, or are their recent wins just a flash in the pan?
Well, Essendon do have some tough games ahead of them. They've got North Melbourne and then Collingwood. If they win those games, then yes, Essendon are well and truly back in it. But the thing with Essendon, they have been a little bit underwhelming this season, and we don't know what Essendon is going to show up week in, week out. So if they win this game, then yes, they can build on that momentum. But for now, not too sure, not too certain about that. So we'll wait and see.
Okay. Are the Carlton Blues in a long-term crisis, or is it just a rebuilding glitch? As they do have some great young players in Cripps and Charlie Curnow. Yeah,
it's a very interesting team this year, Carlton, because there might be a history in making where you have Cripps taking the Brownlow, whereas his team is at the bottom of the ladder. So it's but these things you can say with Charlie Curnow and few other players standing up on the occasion, rising up to the occasion. So they are on the right track. So I believe that is a rebuilding glitch for them. And they will come on top later on.
Okay. And finally, Gabriel, should we pay closer attention to North Melbourne? Do you think they are the real deal for finals footy?
Oh, absolutely we should. I think that North Melbourne are playing some amazing footy. That win last week against the Bulldogs was, I think, a highlight of that. I think that it's testament that North Melbourne are just playing some fantastic footy, that they came back from behind and won in that last, in those dying seconds. I thought it was fantastic. And also, you've got players like Ben Brown, who's on fire, Jack Siebel, who's their captain, who's showing such fantastic leadership, and May Jack Daw has just been reborn again as this key defender. I think North Melbourne have the right ingredients for a great season, and it's almost like they enjoy being unnoticed and flying under the radar. I think that's when they're at their best, and that's what's happening right now. They don't have much
pressure on them to win.
Exactly right, and yeah, so I think that's in their favour, and I think North Melbourne are the real deal.
Well, that's an interesting thought, Gabriel. We'll return after the break with more AFL news on the Multicultural Football Show, so stick around. Welcome back to the second half of the show. You're watching the Multicultural AFL Football Show, and we are now at round 15 of the AFL season. So let's get straight into the next round of matches for our tips. First up, on Thursday at 7:20 at Etihad Stadium, it's first versus second, Richmond versus Sydney. The blockbuster promises to be a tough and interesting tactical game, so who do you think will come out on top?
It will be, as you mentioned, tough and interesting game, but I believe this year I'm not tipping anyone against Richmond. I'm just tipping Richmond. Just putting my money on them. They're doing fantastic this year. They've got everything right, even though Dustin Martin is not performing as well as he should have in these games. But other players have sort of stood up, and they're performing their utmost best at the moment. So it's really hard for me to predict against them. So it doesn't matter where are they playing, who they're playing. It's Richmond for me, unless something drastic happens.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, like Richmond are just doing so well. They're playing so brilliantly. All the players just click and gel together so well that it's impossible to tip against them.
Yeah.
And especially when they're playing in Victoria, whether it's the MCG or Etihad Stadium, it's impossible to go against them. So yeah, I agree. Richmond all the way.
My pick is the Tiger Boys as well. Moving along to Friday, 7:50 at Etihad Stadium, the Western Bulldogs face Geelong. The Doggies went well last week and were unlucky to lose, but they are good enough. But are they good enough to beat the Cats? What is your view, Gabriel?
No, I think that Geelong are a little bit better than the Bulldogs at the moment. Geelong with their players like Dangerfield, Ablett, Menzel, Taylor, when they're in good form and when they're at home, they're pretty much unbeatable. Like with the Western Bulldogs, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to bounce back after the disappointment of losing so close against a finals contender in North Melbourne. And also it'll be interesting to see how Geelong bounce back because they lost last week as well. But saying that, I think that Geelong are just slightly better structured and their players are in far better form than the Bulldogs at the moment. So for me, I'll pick the Bulldogs.
Do you think it could be a motivation factor, losing
so closely against North Melbourne? Yeah, absolutely. I think it will. I think it will give them a real catalyst, a real push to sort of go against Geelong because Geelong have to be careful here because they're starting to lose their mystique a little bit. They have this sort of shield, this sort of, Geelong, they're almost unbeatable. But if they lose this one, they're starting to lose it a little bit. And if they lose against the Bulldogs, who, and you can admit this too, being a big, Bulldogs tragic, that they haven't had the best of seasons. So Geelong have to be careful in this one.
Yeah, well, I agree with Gabriel and don't agree with Gabriel as well. The reason being, one part where he says that it's going to be a close one, I believe Geelong are a bit too strong and they're not close. With their trio, I don't think Luke Beveridge or the other team members will have the answer to them. They want to win. They need to win. I believe they'll be too strong for Bulldogs. The part where I agree is Bulldogs are sort of coming back. They will try to put up their good show as well, which we all know. They have done that this year as well. But I believe this one, Geelong is too strong for that. Okay.
Saturday at 1:45 at the MCG, Carlton take on Port Adelaide. Should Carlton bother to show up, Habia, or just send out the one-man show, Cade Simpson, for his 300th game?
Well, they should come, support Cade Simpson and be there for their fans and be there for people like myself who really admire some of their players. The way they're playing at the moment, although the team is down, still they're performing great at the moment, as we discussed before regarding Charlie Cunningham and Patrick Cripps. So they should show up and put up a good show and prove to everyone that, they can do it. They've got the young guns and they are in that rebuilding glitch and don't let their coach down. So I believe they should show up, but for the tipping purposes, I'm going to go against Carlton. Yeah,
I mean, Carlton, they should just play the kids. They should just play the youngsters and give them as much experience as possible and to allow them to really bloom and flourish as professional elite players because, their season is well and truly over. They've had a really horrendous year, so you might as well just give the kids some experience and build on it for next season. But Port Adelaide are going to win quite comfortably. Yeah,
I agree. Although the Blues will be motivated by Cade's 300th, it won't be enough for them to win. Moving on now to Adelaide Oval at 4:05, where the Adelaide Crows take on West Coast Eagles. Even though they lost last week to a rampant Essendon, Gabriel, will the Eagles find their early form and consolidate their position in the 8 with a win?
If they're genuine premiership contenders, then yes. But having said that, they did lose last week against Essendon. With all due respect, Essendon haven't set the world on fire. They've been having a lot of problems on and off the field. And that game in Perth against a team who are not doing that well, West Coast should have won that game. That was a game that should have been theirs, easily. Adelaide, not being disrespectful, but Adelaide are slightly better than Essendon, especially when they're at home. And when they've got players like Betts, Walker, Sloan, when they're all clicking together and doing so well, especially in front of their home crowd, they're just almost impossible to beat. Obviously, as we know, Adelaide haven't had, the best of times. Sometimes at home they have lost a few games here and there, but even if they are not doing great, when they're at home, they always are incredibly strong. But if West Coast are genuine premiership contenders, which I think they are, and like all good teams, they bounce back from a bad loss, I think they can do it, and I think West Coast will win, but it will be by a few points.
I will say Adelaide for this one. The reason being West Coast depending too much on their forwards. We saw that last week because Josh Kennedy wasn't there, Jack Starling wasn't there, and they are not sure that they're going to be playing this game as well. So for that very reason, I believe I'll tip for Adelaide. But on the point that you touched on, the premiership contenders, they really need to prove that they're not dependent upon just their forwards. They can gel together as a team, and the coach should come up with something where he can utilize all his resources, all his players to win this one. Let's have a look at this section.
Hi, we are reporting for Channel 31, and I am here with a very, very good supporters of Richmond.
Yes.
Girls,
Yeah.
who is your favorite player?
Oh, Alex France is my favourite.
Why?
Oh, because he's just awesome.
I know.
He's great at everything. Yeah.
And your favorite player?
Dusty.
Dustin Martin?
Yeah, just because he's amazing as well.
We're from Tigerland. A fighting fury, we're from Tigerland. A fighting fury, we're from Tigerland. Anywhere that you will see us living green. Hey, we're singing and shit. Hey, we're marble, never marble, fight a win. We're from Tigerland. We never win you to the final, so let's go.
Gold Coast Suns, without their star forward Tom Lynch, will host Collingwood at Metricon Stadium at 7:25. The Pies will most likely steamroll the Suns in paradise. What are your thoughts, boys?
I believe it's going to be an easy one for Collingwood. I would say the way their players are performing at the moment, they are getting superheroes every game. Jade Stephenson, once he said that he's going to pay back Collingwood when they picked him during the trade period, and he has done that. So in the other games, you see some other heroes coming up, Jordan De Goey, Mason Cox, and it's pretty amazing. And then on the other hand, if you look at Gold Coast, I mean, if Lynch is not there, then Stephen May is not there. I mean, there's no point.
Yeah. Gold Coast have been an abomination this season. They've just been so bad on and off the field. Collingwood, it's not really a case of if, but by how much for Collingwood. I mean, Collingwood are going to win this game easily. And like you said, one of the most endearing things about Collingwood this season is that every week there seems to be someone new that have just come out of nowhere for Collingwood and has these amazing games. Like, who's this guy? Where did he come from? And I think that's really, really great about Collingwood. And they've had an amazing season, and they'll win easily against Gold Coast.
Makes it very interesting. Simultaneously at Spotless Stadium, GWS without suspended Jeremy Cameron will face a reasonably strong Hawthorn side in this do-or-die game for the 8. Both teams have been far from impressive. So Gabriel, who will come out on top, and who do you think the Giants hold an advantage at home?
Yes, they do, but GWS, they need to win this one. Their season is on the line, and if they win this, then the season can get back on track. I mean, let's face it, this Hawthorn side isn't the same Hawthorn side of a couple of years ago. This is a rebuilding team that are slowly getting there, but it's not the same as it was a few years ago. GWS, they need to win to keep their season alive, because like many people have said, Leon Cameron has sort of crashed the Ferrari, so to speak. And they need players like Coniglio, Whitfield, Ward. They need to step up. They need to show some leadership. They can't just rely on Jeremy Cameron alone. They've got to really find other sources for goals. I think that GWS, they will win purely on the basis that they have to do it, because if they don't win this, then their season is well and truly over.
Well, I will echo that same thing, that it should be the headlines. If they lose this one, Cameron has smashed a Ferrari. That's it. Although if you look at the previous weeks, they have sort of bounced back. So they had some off-field issues going on as well, but they've come on top of that by winning. So I believe they've got what it takes to beat Hawthorn, but Hawthorn can surprise anyone on any day, anywhere. So it's going to be a good match. But I believe for the tipping, I believe they need to win, and they will win this one, GWS.
Well, I don't know about this one. It may go down to the wire. Sunday at 1:10 at the G, it's Melbourne versus St Kilda in Melbourne's diversity celebration game. Saints versus Demons. So, Habia, will hell freeze over or will heaven have to wait?
Well, Saints, with all due respect to my Mr. Gabriel, I believe Saints don't have a chance against Melbourne. Melbourne are just too strong. At this season, at the start, we were saying that they might be a top 4 contender, which they have sort of flattered a bit, like as in they haven't been performing that well. But for St Kilda, I mean, there is nothing there where we can sort of go for them or say that just for the tipping purposes. Although I want them to win, it's very sad that it has come to that stage where their members are burning their membership. But please, Saints, put up a good show. Please do that. Although I would say Melbourne would easily win this one.
Yeah, as a long-suffering Saints supporter, yes, I echo those sentiments exactly. I think St Kilda, they've been just utterly deplorable this season. They have just been so disappointing. Many people, including myself, we thought that St Kilda were going to be genuine finals contenders, that this is the year where all that rebuilding and all those near misses was finally going to bear fruit, but this time around it wasn't to be. They've just been so bad. There really doesn't seem to be a light at the end of the tunnel for St Kilda this season. I can't really think of any major positives about this season from St Kilda. It's just been so bad. And being a St Kilda supporter, I've seen many bad seasons. So this has been pretty bad. But yeah, Melbourne easily.
Sorry, fellas, I have to disagree. I think Saints will make it 2 wins from 2 games.
Okay.
Very positive.
At 3:20 under the roof at Etihad Stadium, Essendon take on North Melbourne. Both sides had stellar wins last week, so which side will have the momentum in this one, or is it too close to call?
Well, this is going to be an amazing game. This one I'm really looking forward to because both teams had amazing wins last week. Essendon had that fantastic win away in Perth against West Coast. And also you've got North Melbourne had that fantastic come from behind last second win against the Bulldogs. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back. But I think that North Melbourne at the moment, they're just structured a little bit better than Essendon at the moment. Essendon are finding form. Maybe it's a bit too late. They are starting to find their feet, there's no doubt about it. But I think North Melbourne, they're sort of comfortable where they are right now. Their players are just firing on all cylinders, like we said earlier, Zeeble, Dorr, these sorts of players are just so good, they can win you games. And I think that Cunnington is probably the most underrated player in the AFL. He's just someone that's got an X factor that can just change a game and set the agenda of a game really at a whim. I think he's just brilliant. And I think North Melbourne should be just a little bit too strong for Essendon, but I think it's going to be just by a couple of points, but it should be a good one.
Well, I believe Essendon will win this one because they've sort of found their mojo, I believe, and everyone knows that what they want to do and what their position is. And I believe a few things which happened off field that has put something in Washfall that he has put it into the team. Now they're all performing well. I mean, beating West Coast in Perth, that's a big win. So they will be on high, and the kind of performance North Melbourne put in this week against the Bulldogs, I believe they are a bit low for me, and I believe it's going to be Essendon who come on top in this game.
I can't pick a winner in this one, so I'll be daring go for a draw. And to complete the weekend's matches at 2:40 in the West at Optus Stadium in Perth, Fremantle will tackle Brisbane. The Dockers haven't had the best of season, but will they be too good for the Lions?
I believe they will. They haven't had a good season, as you mentioned, but I believe at the moment in Perth, I believe they will come on top from on Brisbane. Although Brisbane, they're putting up great shows. We talked about Carlton, it's at the bottom of the ladder, but still they're putting up great show. Their players are showing a lot of resilience. So I believe they will put on a good show. But at home, I believe Fremantle would be a touch stronger than them. So I'm tipping Fremantle for this one.
Yeah, totally agree. Fremantle at home, they should be far better than the Lions. But Brisbane, much to their credit, they have improved a lot. You know, a lot of their young guys are starting to improve, and a lot of their senior players are also showing great signs of leadership. Like Luke Hodge has been a terrific player. He's been fantastic for the Lions. And it's also obvious that the players are sort of buying into Chris Fagan's game plan and ideology, and I think it's working. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions scare Fremantle a little bit. I don't think they're going to win, but I think they might give them a surprise. But yeah, Fremantle should win easily.
I totally agree. The Dockers for a big win. That's all for this week's edition of the Multicultural AFL Football Show. Don't forget to listen to us on 3ZZZ FM and online at the NEMBC AFL Footy website. Stay tuned next week as we will have lots more AFL action and news about all things multicultural footy. Guys, any final words before we wrap it up?
Well, I don't know what to say, but I would say that every team member, every player, every fan should back their team up, even if they are on top of the ladder or bottom of the ladder, because when you see the signs where they're burning their memberships, that's definitely not a good sign. Doesn't matter what team it is.
Well, I can understand their frustration, though. I mean, try being a St Kilda supporter. I mean,
Try being a Carlton supporter.
Please. Carlton have had their period of success. So St Kilda, well, they're never going to win a premiership in my lifetime.
Yeah, how it was when the Bulldogs win. It was everyone's second team. Yes, I believe that's what's happening with St Kilda at the moment.
Oh, I don't know
but
about that.
you guys, stick with your team, stick with your club. They will bounce back. That's a wrap-up from me. That's all.
Do you have anything else to say?
No, I just concur with what he said, and that's including St Kilda supporters, long-suffering ones such as myself. So yeah.
So your message is just to hang in there.
Well, you've got no choice. You can pick your partner, but you can't pick your foot. You can't leave your footy team. You have to stay with them. Like you can leave your partner, you can leave your wife, but you cannot, leave your footy team.
That is true. I'm Marilyn. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to join us next week. I hope your team wins. Bye for now.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Saludos.